Hi, and welcome to All Things Cozy with Matt.
And Gillian.
We are a bi weekly podcast about everything that is warm, soft, and comforting. This week, All Things Cozy goes to the dogs. Between the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show and the Puppy Bowl, dogs have been fetching a lot of screen time on TV this month. So we'll be chewing on all the coziness these canines dug up. We'll also bark about which TV dog, fictional or not, we'd most like to join our pack. Before we sit and stay cozy, let's catch up over a cuppa. That's right, it's tea time. Before we begin, just a quick structural change to the segment tea time. Normally, Jillian and I will review a tea as we discuss any updates on our lives. After going through lots of different tea purchases at different grocery stores or what have you, we try one of those packets and then we're left with a cabinet full of tea and it was piling up. So we decided to make the editorial decision that if we have a tea we want to talk about, we're sipping on it, sure, we might mention it during the segment to keep the tea and tea time. But really, the focus is on spilling the tea about what's going on in our lives and any kind of updates or cool, cozy things that we've experienced personally. So that'll be the focus. We don't always have a tea to share. For example, I have one today, but Jillian doesn't. We forgive her for that. No, we talked about this ahead of time.
We've already found a new co-host.
Also, really quickly, in the same vein as we were streamlining and thinking about like what really brings joy as we record the show and is the most cozy for our listeners and might not just feel like some kind of throwaway segment, we decided Words of Warmth had reached its place. If this is the first episode you're ever listening to of the show, we used to have a segment at the back of the episode where we'd share a quote that made us feel cozy. And we did that for like maybe 10 episodes so far. And I think we just decided it feels like we're just struggling to find related quotes to the theme. And it's just actually so discouraging and sad because most quotes apparently are garbage.
Well, it's just people saying things.
Yeah.
There's no meanings attached to it a lot of the time.
But it's crazy the stuff that they'll serve up. It like looks like it belongs in like the most overused, tired meme. But I know there's so many brilliant quotes on these topics, but they are not well curated and it's just not as easy to find. So we're also going to stop doing that segment for the time being. Listeners, if you feel really passionately about Words of Warmth, sound off in the comments and let us know. If you really feel strongly about it, we can be moved to continue it again. But if not, we're going to keep going with a more streamlined show.
And I can always resume my weekly Words of Warmth on Instagram, which I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I've taken a break, haven't felt a lot of Words of Warmth recently, but I think I might pick that back up. So they can always find the Words of Warmth there.
Just in case those words warm up again.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are warm, I am drinking a warm cup of tea. As I had shared in our last tea time, I pick up teas whenever I'm traveling, and actually both the story I have to tell and the tea is from the same event where I went to Paso Robles, or Paso Robles, depending on who you ask, with my husband and family. And we, of course, went to wineries, including Eberly, which we went to last time.
Yeah, I remember.
Has the little wine cellar tour that was a lot of fun. We went back and had a great time again. And of course, we were staying in a hotel while we were there. And so I raided their little tea section. So this Bigelow made no relation to the Gigolo, Raspberry Royale. And it's a black tea with a raspberry hint, fruity hint. I really like it. It's very subtle, actually, the raspberry piece of it. It's like a black tea with a little something extra. And it has actually a great scent more than the raspberries bringing a lot of sweetness, which I think is smart. So it's really more in your nose than on your tongue, which I think is the way it ought to be. They describe it as a raspberry blend that combines our smooth black tea with an exceptional raspberry flavor, bold with just a hint of sweet fruit notes, delicious hot or over ice. I'm drinking it hot. And I agree, it's just a hint of sweet fruit notes that you get in the scent, not necessarily on the taste, and that's really great. So I'd recommend this if you're at a hotel in Paso. Pick up some Raspberry Royale.
I think I've seen that brand around. But
yeah,
to your point, you should let the tea come find you, not the other way around.
exactly. On the topic of Paso, when we were there, part of the main event we went to is, yes, the wineries. That's in the central coast of California. It's an area that's known for growing Cabernet, Sauvignon grapes. There's also this art installation by English Australian artist Bruce Monroe. It's called Sensorio. He does large-scale installations of usually like a technology focus. He did a piece called CDC, which is a sea of compact discs, CDs, that looks really stunning. At a certain angle, the glint of all of the CDs looks like waves glinting of the ocean. It's really beautiful. And Sensorio is in this rolling field in Paso Robles. It's these LED lights, kind of LED plants that are a field with lights of all sorts of different colors. And it looks absolutely magical. Like you've been transported to the Wizard of Oz. You're in Oz and it's a magical place. They open at dusk, and then you get to walk through the pathways of this installation. He has some other installations there, like light towers, which are built out of wine bottles in honor of all the wineries in the area, and a couple more peaceful installations that are very simple with white light called Gone Fishing and Fireflies that really just play with movement and shape. And there's also a collaborator, I don't know how to say this. It's like capital HYBYCOZO, Hibikozo, I don't know. But their piece is called Dimensions, and it's really cool because it's these geometric shapes, these large metal shapes that are lit up from the inside, and they cast these patterns on the ground that are absolutely gorgeous. I have all the cell phone wallpaper I need for the rest of my life because of the photos I took here, and also just like really mesmerizing music. One more thing I'll say is that the night we went, it was pouring rain. And this was a relief because of the fires in California. So it felt a relief that rains were happening in Southern California and Central California. But at the same time, it's an outdoor installation. So we got soaked. And despite the misery of trudging through outside in the rain, it was still worth it. And I think that speaks to the quality of this. So if you're in the area, absolutely stop by Sensorio by Bruce Monroe. And it seems like most of his work is in England. So if you're in England, you can go more locally to the same kinds of iterations of Field of Light that are in that country.
This looks absolutely beautiful. Do you know how long it goes on until?
Right now, I know it's permanent.
Oh, it's permanent.
Yeah, because they really did build up like a band shell, and you go in, it's not just you
Oh,
go through the art installation. They have a food truck, and they have a bar and a band shell, and they have a special terrace if you're VIP. Brett's uncle paid for us to be in VIP,
I was
so
about to say,
we
that was
had
gonna be my
that
next thing.
experience.
So I see that it has a fireside
Yeah.
table, heaters,
Yeah, and
private
we needed that
restrooms.
night. Yeah, so we heated
Sign
up
me
and
up.
dried off before we went out, and fortunately, the rain stopped after about an hour, and it made it so that we were able to transition from hiding on the terrace to going out and enjoying the night.
Sounds like a lovely evening map, very magical.
Jillian, what is your tea this week?
Well, I'm very excited because my 3-year-old, we're going to be 3 in June, nephew Finbar is coming for a visit in April, and we just cemented the details last week. So I'm super excited. He's never been to California. Obviously, he's not jet setting around as a 2-year-old, but this will be his first trip on a plane. He is already preparing his visit by asking to see my fridge. He's very obsessed with fridges. So Finbar likes to look in everyone's fridges, and we're actually creating a book for him right now of our family fridges.
Oh
So
my
send
goodness.
inside pics, and he'll just rate them. And he's only 2, but he just loves to assess it, what he likes, what he doesn't like in there,
Tell me you're the firstborn grandchild of a family
right?
without telling me if your entire family is making you a book of your favorite fridges.
He likes my coffee creamer and my oranges. So that was the feedback that I received. He also liked my
How
cherries.
does that rank? Is it a glowing review, or do you feel there's some room for improvement before his arrival?
I think there's some room for improvement. He really liked my dad's fridge, which is ironic because my dad typically just keeps birdseed in his fridge and maybe some lone shrimp. And
Get a shrimp.
he's a lone wolf. And so his fridge is very sparse. But I guess because of the birdseed in it, that was like super exciting. He is also very fastidious. So he rates our homes as well because we walked into my mom's house and he goes, "What a mess."
Oh my
So
goodness.
I really have to prepare for his visit and make sure that we're in tip-top shape for his arrival, but I'm super excited just to have him in California and get to do all the things with him. He's so excited to see Reese's and Snickers and Canela. He's really been looking forward to that. He loves cats, obsessed with cats. Hopefully, they'll come out for him. It's only a 4-day visit, so we're trying to pack in as much as we can, but to know that he's coming is just something to look forward to. It's in April, and I couldn't be more excited.
That is so exciting. I can't wait to hear what Finbar thinks of your house and your fridge. Martha Stewart, sleep with one eye open because Finbar is coming for your title.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he has a fake Dyson vacuum that he likes to play with. He has his own kitchen. He is very into keeping house.
Well, I think we've been barking enough about things that are going on in our lives. Let's rough it up by talking about some cozy canines. I don't know what that means. Anyway, believe it or not, Jillian, we haven't really talked about dogs on our show since season 1 when we did an episode about pets in general.
Seems so long ago.
Right? Actually, also, it's one of our least performing episodes we've ever recorded.
But people are barking for the dogs every time we do a
I
survey. It's like,
know.
do pets, do dogs?
Throw some love on that season. I think it's called like Furry Friends, maybe was the name of the episode.
Give it a scratch.
Yeah, give it a scratch. That episode's a flea on the All Things Cozy catalog. You can go scratch if you want to hear more pet content. Or you can keep listening to this episode because there's plenty of it here. Now that Jillian is a dog mom, we decided we'd sniff around the pup culture offered to us on television this month, namely the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show and the Puppy Bowl. After all, what could be cozier than spending a few hours watching dogs prance around? It's a beat we had to cover. Let's kick things off on the gridiron with the Puppy Bowl. The Puppy Bowl aired on Sunday, February 9th, and this was the Puppy Bowl 21. I always thought this was counter-programming for the Super Bowl, but it's actually like pre-programming for the
Oddly
Super Bowl. It
enough,
leads into it,
they
yeah.
got to get all those advertisers.
Yeah, you can do both. But in general, I feel like the idea is for some folks who might not really even want to tune into the big game at all, this could be something that you watch if you prefer your fur babies to football. It offers a fluff-filled spectacle of adoptable puppies playing on a mini gridiron. It debuted in 2005 and features teams of puppies. There's always Team Rough and Team Fluff, and they compete to score touchdowns by dragging toys into the end zones. Don't be fooled by the chaotic charm. There are rules and penalties for things like illegal napping and overenthusiastic players who flatten their opponents, aka pancaking. Looking past the silliness, the real focus is on pet adoption, as all featured puppies come from shelters and are adoptable. The latest broadcast featured 142 puppies from 80 shelters across 40 states and 2 countries. It also shines a spotlight on special needs dogs, increasing visibility for pups with disabilities who are just as ready for their forever homes. So who took home the Lumbarkey Trophy? This year it was Team Fluff. A little bit of the award rundown. Foxtrot earned Most Valuable Puppy, and Mercury won the Underdog Award. And the popularity playoff champion was D-Bone Samuel. Jillian, is this your first time watching the Puppy Bowl? Are you a repeat Puppy Bowl viewer? What did you take from this year's Puppy Bowl 21?
I typically just pass it by, like it's on in the background, but this time I was seated. So it's the first time I watched it through in full. And we had Canelo watching with us.
Did Canella react to the dogs on the screen at all?
Yes, and she had a Nepo baby moment because I uploaded her photo to a cuteness article we published, and I pitched it because of that. And she was watching the dogs, and it was cute photos of pets watching the 2025 Puppy Bowl. And so she was top of the list. So Nepo baby moment. She was hooked on it. She heard the dogs barking. She was centered in on it. And to be fair, she has 2 cats as sisters, so she doesn't really get the opportunity to be around other dogs because we're waiting on her last shot. So we haven't been able to take her to a dog park or anything like that. So she is barking for company. So she had to connect with them on screen. But I thought it was absolutely adorable. The thing I'll say though, it reminded me of this tweet I saw a few weeks back that really made me laugh. In the Rockettes, they have camels. Like, where are you going with this? And so one tweeted, like, imagine you're just a camel hanging out in your native habitat. And next thing you know, you're hit with a tranquilizer and you wake up in the back of Radio City Music Hall and someone says, you're on a 5. This is how I feel. Probably were not mice the tranquilizers, but imagine one day you're in a shelter. Next thing you know, you're on this mock football field and all these lights and a referee, and you're on Team Fluff, Team Rough. Imagine that just as a whiplash of an experience. But yes, outside of the just the oddness of it, that it's a thing. The creative production I was so impressed with. If you watch this show, you can tell that everyone just put their heart and souls into it. From the puns, like who would win in eternal barking rights. The level that they went to insert puns was so impressive.
It puts us to shame. I was watching this and I was like, did Jillian and I miss the perfect job for us? Because I feel like we work really hard to insert as many puns as possible into this show. And I felt a kind of kindred spirit in whoever is writing the copy for the Puppy Bowl. We are on the same wavelength, and I really love the puns as well.
Yeah, and they had to be on top of their game as well. There was a live commentary, and they were throwing puns within the commentary. So I was super impressed with that. Also, just the camera work. So in the beginning, they have the Star Spangled Banner and they take the camera and they put it on each individual dog. And it looks like the dog is looking up. But what I suspect is they're just holding a treat up and panning the
Right.
camera down. And so I thought that was really cute. The level of detail was really funny. And also the seriousness that you touched on, Matt, which is, yeah, it's silly and fun, but they stuck to their penalties. If you had another dog grabbing another dog's bandana, you got a penalty. And they were serious about those touchdowns too. It felt like I was actually watching a real football game, but obviously a very silly one and one with a lot of poop on the field because they
Yeah,
did
they were
have
very
cleaners.
anti-rough housing. And
Yes.
also, I did not like the part where they cleaned up the potty on the field. They didn't show anything, but I still didn't love the allusion to it. I guess they needed to answer the question for curious viewers as to where are the puppies going? And the answer is right on the field,
Mm.
but they're just cleaning it up and making sure that's not in the shots.
Think about all the poop you didn't see.
No, exactly. I think they take a whole week to film this just to get that couple hours of content. It takes, I think, at least 5 days for them to get enough puppy interaction to cut together a whole game. Imagine the job of a reality show producer, and your beat is the Puppy Bowl, and you have to find the through line for who are the stars, like, who's the drama,
There was drama.
and you have to make that plot work. And they did a really great job of creating those stories. It's very silly. I had sometimes a little difficulty focusing on it because it was so silly, but of course that's its charm. I liked it as good background TV.
Yeah, it also had some really sweet moments that I'm sure drew you in as well, like it did for me. The senior coach. So it was the first time they ever had a senior coach in the game. And this one was, I really struggle to say this dog breed. Chihuahua. Sometimes I would say Chihuahua. It's really hard for me. But the Chihuahua is 12. Her name is Ladybug. And so she was the senior coach. And I thought that was really sweet. And they showcased different shelters across the United States. And as Matt pointed out, also in different countries. So I got to learn about these various shelters, and I'm sure that helps with adoptions. Because I imagine all these dogs are just scooped up who are actually playing in the game. Like the dog Smoosh. I don't know if you registered Smoosh, Matt, but he was a hot topic of the game.
I didn't catch on to Smoosh.
Maybe this is my calling. I need to be a ref in the puppy bowl. But Smoosh was getting a lot of heat from the other dogs. A fluffy little tiny dog, which made me wonder, is it like the gladiator where they pit tiny dogs against bigger dogs? Because Smoosh was getting a lot of roughhousing and he was playing possum at one point to get away from the tackles.
Oh, wow. One dog that caught my attention was Trio, who was the dog with
Mhm.
3 legs. And Trio ended up being so aggressive as a player and had the most penalties for biting bandanas and trying to wrestle other dogs to the ground. I was not expecting that from Trio, but also, again, put on the drama, added to the show. My favorite dogs in general were the lazy pups. All of the nominees for Underdog Award I loved. Mercury was a huge dog, or huge puppy, I would say, that really planted itself and would not move. I really loved Clark. Clark was a puppy that went to the corners of the stadium, refused to budge from the corners, and would not participate at all. That is way more my vibe, and I really was seriously thinking I might want to adopt Clark, but I saw Clark was already adopted. I think a lot of the dogs that play in the show are pre-adopted, and you get to see their families later, but they promote adoption.
Yeah, I miss Clark, but to your point of a lot of dogs were just hanging out. I also love the dogs just went in the water bowl and treated it as if it was a pool, not a
Yeah.
place to get water. I thought that was really cute.
Does Canella do that? Does Canella respect the water bowl, or is she sloshing around?
She is so massive now. I don't know if her caboose could fit in any bowl. She grew so fast. I think she would do well in the puppy bowl. She loves toys and she frequently steals the cat's toys. So we have our own puppy cat bowl daily. What I loved, speaking of cats, was they had a kitty halftime show, Meowdy Gras. So they played to the theme of it being in New Orleans this year, the Super Bowl, which I thought was cool. And then a funny, cute, and cozy moment was when I think a producer took a fake cat paw to throw the beads, and it was such a quick moment that if you blinked, you missed it. But once again, it goes back to the level of detail, and I really appreciated that.
Love the idea of someone directing that shot of like, yeah, we have to get the cat paw to throw some beads to a dog. It was very silly, but very cute. I wish it was longer because it
Mhm.
went by so fast. It was like really blink and you miss it. And I felt like we needed a longer halftime show. Like the Super Bowl really focuses on that. It's like a real central point. I feel like the Meowdy Gras could have been even bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen some commentary online that the cats used to be cheerleaders. I don't know if someone was just messing with other people, but they were like, "Where did the cat cheerleaders go?" They were cat
I
cheerleaders?
have a vague memory of that. I think they're not lying about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why they scrapped the cheerleaders. Maybe they aged out. I don't know.
Got pooper scoop to the idea bin. All right. Well, the puppy bowl is a great appetizer, but I really think we ought to finish on the right paw with the prestigious pups of the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. So this year was the 149th annual Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. It just wrapped as of this recording. So, listeners, this is how devoted we are. Julian and I watch Best in Show and then we race to our microphones. So this is like literally live, like breaking news. Who won the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show? Before we discuss the winners and all of the thoughts we have about Westminster, a little background. So dog shows have been raising the woof since 1859, when the first recorded event took place in Newcastle, England. Back then, it was all about hunting breeds, such as pointers and setters. This type of event made it to the United States when the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show was first held in 1877 in New York City. It started as a competition for gun dogs owned by wealthy sportsmen, but evolved into one of the most prestigious canine events in the world. As time has gone on, they've strayed from just judging dogs on how well they match breed standards and now include agility trials and obedience tests. But it's not all tail wags and belly rubs. Critics argue that focusing too much on breed standards has contributed to genetic health issues, sparking a movement toward more responsible breeding. On top of that, the dog eat dog politics and the judging process have resulted in some accusations of fervoritism toward more established competitors. Nevertheless, the show remains popular, drawing big crowds and media attention. Whether you're rooting for the fancy floofs or the underdogs, one thing's for sure, these events celebrate man's best friend like no other. Julian, have you ever tuned into a Westminster Kennel Club dog show before?
First, I want to say you won Best in Show for your puns.
That actually was my audition for the Puppy Bowl.
Hey, producers, if you're listening. No, this is the first time I've watched it. My partner's had it on the background before, and I avoided it because it would make me really anxious. I was just afraid to see a dog who's probably prepared for months and months for this moment. I know it's not Miss America or anything, but always feel bad in those moments where, let's say, the dog has an off day, similar to, I imagine, as horse events. It's like that horse gets spooked, and it's just that one moment, and it offshoots all the work that they did to lead up to that moment. So it makes me anxious to watch.
I'm
So
so sorry, Julian. I didn't realize that I was making you do something that was
no,
so.
no, no, I had the opposite experience because I always wanted to watch it and really get to understand what it is. And so in doing that, there's not any anxious or tense moments outside of the judges picking the lineup for the best in show of the group. So what the judge does is they'll walk over to some dogs and have them come up, and then from there they select the winner. So that's a little nerve-wracking, but outside of that, I thought it was so fun. Similarly to the Puppy Bowl, there's all these aside moments that's not the actual show. For example, interviews with the dog and owner. It adds a layer of hilarity and cuteness to the whole affair. I watched the Great Dane Lexus with his owner, and during the interview, he took a nap, which is really adorable. He just passed out on the couch. And this dog is massive and it dwarfed its owner. So it's just funny to see that because the interviewer is taking it very seriously, which that contrast of a dog being interviewed against the seriousness was really funny. And that's the same kind of vibe that the Puppy Bowl had. Obviously, this is a lot more sincere and a very big event, but I couldn't help but find that to be really funny.
I agree. I loved all of the interactions and the enthusiasm. And there were also sometimes, even on the floor during judging, that there were these ecstatic moments between the dogs or between their owners, and the crowd would go wild for them. I could see how maybe in the past, when it was in your periphery, how you might soak up the anxiety of getting chosen or feel bad for the people who took these dogs and the dogs themselves, which it feels extra sad for a dog to be rejected,
I
right?
know.
But it's not. They're all being celebrated. The fact that they're
Mhm.
even in the portions of the competition that are televised. So the way it works is the winners of the breed go on to compete within their group. And then the winners of those groups, so there are 7: hound, toy, non-sporting, working, sporting, terrier, and herding. The winners from those groups go on to compete in best in show. By the time you're watching it as a viewer, I don't think they televise the breed picking. I think we just get to the groups when we're watching it on
Mhm.
TV. And so it's the best of the best already, and everyone's just really thrilled to be there. And how exceptional it is to own or breed a dog that is so high quality or so an exemplary of its breed that it makes it to this level of a competition. I think they're all just happy to be there. Of course, people want to take home the grand prize, but it almost just seems like a really fun convention for dogs. I mean, I know like Best in Show, the Christopher Guest movie, satirized it, and I think smartly made it more about the people. And boy, do those people look fascinating.
We both honed in on that.
Yeah.
I said that it reminded me of, and I don't mean this as snarky, and it's as very complimentary and it's good natured. Reminds me of this the stuff my late grandma would wear to dine with the captain.
Yeah, there were so many sequin business
Yeah,
suits.
she loves sequin business suits, and it
And I
really
think
reminded me
everyone
of
was
that.
definitely I agree with you. This is not a snarky comment because everyone was well aware of the level of costume that they were
Mhm.
wearing. Like, it was to razzle dazzle us, and razzle dazzled we were. I mean, they must have set up a sequin store in the lobby of Madison Square Garden for the blinding, shining lights off of everyone's blazers.
Yeah.
It was really something to see.
And the interviewer looked like she'd about to dine on the Titanic, and I once again don't mean that as snarky, like, I truly loved how everyone dressed up, and dressed up for a good reason. Because you highlighted an important sentiment. If you're feeling anxious about watching, you said it beautifully. It's just about appreciating these breeds, and one thing I found
Right.
really cozy and sweet was how they had an announcer as every dog went up, and they said special facts about that particular breed. And so I got to learn facts about breeds that I hadn't even actually been aware of. There's some breeds I've never heard about. So to hear about their history or what they really excel in and what makes them special added another layer of meaning to this event.
I learned about so many new breeds I didn't know about. And also, I loved when they would assess if a dog was family friendly or not in terms of great for a family if you're active. I think anyone who wants to own a dog should watch at least one Westminster Kennel Club dog show to get a vibe for the different breeds and what they're like. And obviously, when you go to a shelter, you might get a mix, right? It's not going to be a purebred necessarily like these dogs, but the characteristics that you see might give you some clues in terms of the temperament of the dog and have it match what you're going for. If you have an active family or a family that goes hiking and you have kids who are very active, yeah, some of those sporting dogs might be a great fit for your family. But if you are quiet and live in an apartment, that's going to be like a living hell for that dog. They want to be out there doing things. So I really like that discussion of what these dogs love to do, not just in terms of how they look, but what their personality was like. And even when they were being judged, sometimes if it was known that, oh, this breed has a mind of its own, they like to see some haughtiness. They wanna see some independent mindedness happening just so that you can show that element of that breed.
Yeah, and the up close and personal shots of these breeds were
Yeah.
really adorable. There was one dog, I believe their name was Bodacious, and they appeared in some lottery ads for Kentucky, which, as an aside about that, I imagine in this narrative fictional world that I created, there are the more Hollywood dogs, and maybe there's some tension among the breeders who are a little bit more traditional and classic. But back to Bodacious, he had an adorable face and his mouth was just hanging open right before he went out into his performance. And the pet parent would try to push up his jaw and he was failing to do. The jaw just kept dropping down. And I thought that was really cute and funny. Bodacious was not here for it.
There did seem to be some tension between what the crowd favorites were and what were the prestigious breeds at the show. Like, for example, when the golden retriever hit the stage, the crowd went wild. The announcer said it's like the Michael Jordan of Westminster, just based on the crowd reaction alone.
Airbud, I mean,
There you go. The crowd's hungry for a golden retriever win, and actually, it did get into the top handful for that group. And typically, I guess that breed doesn't make it that far in these competitions, but again, people grow up with golden retrievers and have a lot of affection for them. And so it was just lovely to see all these different types of dogs just be appreciated. People just who love these animals and care about them so deeply and know so much about them and care for them with their whole heart, getting to all celebrate their love for dogs together. I thought that was the most beautiful part about the dog show.
Absolutely, and down to how the event was decorated. Those flowers were so
Mhm.
pretty. It was a small detail,
Very
but
classy,
very classy, very hoity-toity. There was a
very high
flower.
tootin', as you like to
Yeah,
say.
it's high tootin'. There's a nice flower arch where the dogs would enter, and then next to their stands, there were flowers in between, and they had some cute videos of the dogs sniffing the flowers. I don't know if that was allowed or they got points deducted for that, but I thought it was cute.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the winner of the show. So the winner of the 149th Westminster Dog Show was Monty, the giant schnauzer, won Best in Show. Giant schnauzer. Is there two better words in the English
I'm
language? That's
speechless.
one that's German.
Yeah, I didn't know they had giant schnauzers. I was only aware of the little one, and I imagine it's for me, you know how they show those zoomed up images of ants? "Oh, these are what ants really look like." It's like, whoa, it really just strikes you how big they are. Very cute though, Monty was adorable, and it was so sweet when they won in the working group, 'cause I believe that was their group. He was so happy, he was jumping and licking his owner, which was so cute. And I believe that Monty is on a winning streak. I think they've recently won other competitions, and
Mhm.
they've won other things at the Westminster, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think that's right. I feel like they said this is like his 5th go around or something
Mhm.
at these shows. Other awards that were given out, so Bourbon the Whippet won Reserve Best in Show. I guess that's kind of the runner-up prize for that final group, and honestly, I loved watching Best in Show. Obviously, it's the biggest event of the Westminster Dog Show. It's the culminating thing, but the drama of all of these winners coming out, representing their group, oh, you could feel the energy as the Shih Tzu comes trotting out, its fur flapping. And I think the ridiculousness of the hairdos and the way this beautiful shiny fur is just flapping around. Another really funny one just to see hit the stage was the Skye Terrier, a winner of the terrier group, Archer, with its bat ears, giant head, little worm body. I really had a soft spot for Bourbon the Whippet, who,
Mm.
like I said, won the Reserve Best in Show because I guess Whippets have this kind of like prancy walk. And I have to say, maybe the best sports announcing in the game because these commentators said everything I wanted to hear. I always wanted to know, like, oh, what are they looking for? What's it about this breed that's special? And they just always had on point commentary. Truly incredible commentary. I loved all of it. It was very useful. And I really loved when the judge of Best in Show, as she was instructing them to do one final lap, each of them, at a breed appropriate pace to really take in the moment and enjoy this. As a viewer, it helped me relax and remember that this is a huge achievement, whoever wins Best in Show.
Yeah, what a memorable experience. I don't know if the dogs will remember it.
Not at all, I'm sure. It's just a really loud, probably annoying event for them.
Yeah, but I like to think in an alternative universe, they are reliving their glory days as they get older. I won Best in Show in 2025. Or that maybe I would love to see how they're treated after the Best in Show. Are they rewarded with a vacation?
They're going to Disneyland.
Do they get extra treats? Yeah, yeah, just like the Eagles. I wanna know what happens after. I looked into what you win because obviously that would be my focus, and you don't win a cash prize from what I researched, but I think you also get the opportunity, and correct me if I'm wrong, or listeners correct me if I'm wrong, if you get to donate, I think $5,000 to a shelter of your choice, or am I making that up?
I really didn't look into the pricing, so I hope that's true. That sounds like a great prize.
Mhm. Yeah, but I still think they should get lots of treats regardless of what the prizes are.
Absolutely. They're all good dogs.
All good dogs.
Speaking of good dogs, we're going to go to the doghouse one final time. While we're talking about dogs on TV, obviously these are kind of reality-based shows, but you watch TV and there's lots of memorable dogs on TV, sitcoms, cartoons even. And Jillian, I wanted to ask you while we wrap this conversation up, which TV dog would you most want to take home? Of any TV dog on any show you've ever watched, which dog would that be?
Feel like listeners who've listened for a long time won't be surprised, but
I knew your answer immediately when I wrote down this question.
Eddie from Frasier. Love Eddie. Jack Russell Terrier, if you're not familiar, and his real name was Moose, which I guess I wasn't suspecting a moose. It's a cute name, but when I pictured Eddie, it's just hard to imagine Eddie is not Eddie. And he sadly passed away in 2006 at 16 years old, along life and what an accomplished life it was. A Slash film reported NBC handlers at the time told the Washington Post that Moose received hundreds of fan letters each week from across the country, including dozens of breeding requests and untold job offers. Which doesn't surprise me, because Eddie was adorable, and I loved in the show just the dynamic he had with Frasier, aka Kelsey Grammer. They would have these long, knowing glances between one another, and Eddie was Frasier's nemesis, but in an adorable, sweet way. He loved Eddie deep down. And Kelsey actually, when he won an Emmy in 1994 for the show, he said, "Most importantly, Moose, this is for you," which I think was a sweet and cute tribute. He did reference Eddie's death in the Frasier reboot, so he comes across another dog at his son's firehouse. I don't wanna spoil it too much, but he says to the dog who's giving him a look, "I outlasted that little mongrel, I'll outlast you." So that was a reference to Eddie and
Look,
his
you
passing.
snuck in a words of warmth.
Yes. Well, I think the Emmy tribute is word.
Well, it's funny, Eddie got mentioned during
I that flew
Westminster.
right over my head.
When the Jack Russell Terrier was going around,
Oh,
he mentioned that this is the dog from Frasier. Not the
he
dog,
got
but like the
cloned.
breed, rather. And that it got a lot of fan mail. And they also mentioned that it's the same breed of the dog from The Mask.
Oh, and my dog Skip. Well, he played the older dog in my dog Skip.
Well, and guess what? My pick is also a Jack Russell Terrier. This one is Wishbone from the show Wishbone. And if you never watched that show because you didn't grow up in the 90s and you didn't have a TV wheeled out on a cart and your teacher popping a VHS cassette of an educational show about basically a story time, like a classic story, like Rip Van Winkle or something, but it's played by a dog named Wishbone, told from the dog's perspective. The dog's playing the primary character and also always ended with a segment about like a behind the scenes portion, like a featurette, like whatever was prominent in that episode. If it relied on lots of lighting, it would go to the lighting department. And I often wonder if like everything I know about TV and film, the root of that is from those little Wishbone segments at the end of the show. But what is there to say about Wishbone that hasn't already been said by people a million times before? I'll just say a dog that tells stories and dresses up. You can't beat it. Talk about a drag, or should I say dog queen story time. The Jack Russell Terrier that played Wishbone was
Oh,
named Soccer in real life,
it's a plot
and
twist.
Soccer blessed this earth with his bark from 1988 to
Oh,
2001.
it's a long life too.
Yeah, 13 years. Honorable mention would be Pork Chop from the animated show Doug, just because, first of all, he's like a 90s Snoopy, doesn't talk, uses just body language and barking, but doesn't behave like a dog really in any other way aside from those features. His igloo is outfitted with like recliners and it has all the latest technology. Pork Chop loves to
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to his Walkman. He's totally tubular. I always had a soft spot for Pork Chop. Also, Pork Chop was just braver than Doug and like was more ready to defend the turf than Doug. Doug really needed Pork Chop for a little bit of backbone.
Oh, nailed that last pun. Yeah, I love pork chop when I saw that you picked that. I was like, "Oh, this is a really good one." And what a cute name, pork chop. My honorable mention is Spike from Rugrats. I didn't know this, but he was a fictional breed, a Siberian tiger hound. So I did a lot of research on
That's funny.
Spike.
I was like, yes, that is real.
And I really got
100%.
wrapped into whether Spike died in the Rugrats movie because a lot of people thought that he did, but he really didn't. He went and he saved the babies as usual, and there was a near miss in that movie, but he survived. And that goes to show just his whole history with the Rugrat babies. He was always going out of his way to save them because the parents really weren't doing much hands-on parenting.
No, yeah, Spike was always saving those dumb
He was
babies.
working hard. He was hustling 24/7, and so we gotta salute Spike for raising some kids.
And we salute all of the puppies and dogs, and I'm really resisting just to ironically say things like puppers and doggos. We got through a whole episode without saying puppers or doggos, and I deserve a prize for that.
At least you didn't go down for babies.
Yeah, I think I did at some
Hey,
point.
I won't pee on a hydrant because
Well, that's a relief, Gillian. Well, we have one more thing to sniff around, and that is our candle review. So, of course, it is dog themed. And when I was looking for a dog themed candle, I really wanted to find something that, like, if I were a dog owner and I was looking for a candle, what scented candle would I want to commemorate my dog? And Honestly, the pickings were slim as far as I could find that weren't just sort of, "Oh, this was already a scent that we have, you can just plop in some other it's lavender or whatever, and then we'll put the breed you want on it." And it was hard to find very thoughtful candles that were related to dogs or related to a specific dog breed. Thankfully, Scripted Fragrance saved the day, and they have dog breed candles that aren't just, "Oh, yeah, whatever scent you want in there, we'll put that dog on top of it." It's the scent blend is inspired by the breed. And so, Gillian, in honor of Canella, your new dog, I chose the Australian Shepherd Dog Candle, again by Scripted Fragrance. And they describe it as a keen blend of both intelligence and energy, with a working spirit and affectionate heart, inspired by the Australian Shepherd. And the scent is a mix of warm bergamot, juicy currant, blooming wildflowers, and soft lavender. The scent is more subtle than I expected at first. It fills a small room really well, but in a larger room, it becomes a light ambient scent. And I don't know how else to describe this, but I think the brightness of the wildflowers and bergamot, they just bring a bright scent to the air without it being overpowering. I really like it. It does energize one as you smell it. And I kind of like that it's not overpowering. Although I think it is not giving me the full palette of that description. And I could see people being like, "Am I smelling this really?" Like if you're in a larger room, I think the throw is not quite strong. I would still give this a wick up. Even though the scent is faint, I think it's really well considered. It's thoughtful for the breed. And what I like the most about it is that it's in a reusable rocks glass with a printing of the dog breed silhouette. So it has a little silhouette of an Australian Shepherd on it that you can enjoy once the candle is all melted.
Well, I'll definitely have to pick this candle up because the way you described it with feeling energized by the scent. Aussies are so energetic. So it's only apt that you feel energized while sniffing it. It's disappointing about the throw. I hate that when you have a candle that's really awesome in a small room, but then just doesn't do the job in a bigger room.
Right.
But, not all dogs need to be smelled. Because Kennel can get stinky. I know that scent isn't stinky, but at least it can fill up a small room and it's cute and it at least tries to honor the dog that it is promoting.
Absolutely. Well, I think it might be time for this episode to be taken to a farm upstate. But don't worry, all dogs and all things cozy episodes go to heaven. That's a dark way to end this episode. I'm sorry.
Very dark, but
I'm running out of dog puns. I have to go to those now.
it's better than putting us in the pound.
Oh, pound puppies. Gonna talk about those. Anyway, before we go though, a reminder that you can keep up with us on social media. We are at All Things Cozy Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and at All Things Cozy on Blue Sky. I don't know why I didn't keep it consistent, but I really wanted to get All Things Cozy without the podcast part of it
It's
on Blue
coveted.
Sky. I've had to stake that claim. And if you are interested in reading our romantic selection for February and discussing the book with us, we are absolutely adoring the February's pick of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Or if you just want to hear our thoughts about it, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/allthingscozy and join at the vote of our pillar level. And you can get those book club episodes and access to future books and episodes, and even the opportunity to talk about those books with us live. So that's it for our show. Our dog bowl is empty, but we will be refilling it with more cozy kibble when we're back in your ears in 2 more weeks with another episode. Until next time, stay cozy.